Power and the People is brought to you by Bennett's Home Center, Quality and Savings, the Ministry of Immigration, Unitex Company Limited, exclusive distributor of Gorilla Energy Drink and Kent Boringer products, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade.
I encourage all Belizeans to vote.
The UDP, and you cannot have two UDPs.
The time is now for us to have participatory leadership.
Good evening, Belize, and welcome to Powa and the People. We are now just 8 days away from the general elections of 2025. And on tonight, we have a special edition of Powa and the People as we bring you an exclusive interview with Prime Minister Honorable John Briceño. But before that, we'll break down where things stand in this election process, where voters' concerns are, and how the voting process actually works. Please welcome our contributors tonight. Ms. Demi Williams, good night.
Good night.
And we welcome back Harold Young. It's good to see you again. Good night. We missed you last week.
I missed you guys too.
But tonight we are cracking things down. We are 8 days away. How are we feeling?
I'm not really sure how to answer that question, to be honest. I think that there's a lot of things to feel. So it's like everything coming through the funnel at once. But I would like to see what our viewers are saying in the comments, how they feel for sure.
Harold?
I'm excited, but this time I think, as we were talking about earlier, we're maybe excited for different reasons. Different reasons, right? Because there's so many unusual things happening in this elections.
Unprecedented things.
And so some of the things that we look for, we may not have been looking at them so much early in other elections.
That's why it feels a little weird, because I have, in my short time voting, I've never had to deal with these extenuating circumstances.
Indeed, and I think our viewers will agree with both of you. So follow us on our social medias using hashtag Powa2025 or call us live at 280-0016 to ask your questions or give us your opinions. Like I said before, we hear from Prime Minister Briceño. Let's discuss where we are in this election and break down some key elements of how votes are cast and counted. Harold, walk us through the key election processes.
Thanks, April. I want to, for the public, we're not going to make this too heavy and serious. We're going to deal with some very key points and then kind of wrap them to give you an idea of how the process works when you go to the polls. The first thing we're going to look at is the elections officers. These are really, really important people. They get training before the elections. They go through a training to prepare them because they're across the country. The chief elections officer is only one, of course, but then the polling officers and the clerks and all these people are set out across the country.
They oversee
the actual polling stations and the boxes and things like that, right? So it's really important that we have just a rough idea of what it looks like. So if you could bring up the first.
Okay, so this is the hierarchy of election officers.
So what you can see at the very top, we have the returning officers and then the election clerks, and off on the right or the left?
The far right.
The police officers. Please note that this is important. This is just speaking about security. And part of the security is not just the officers' presence, but it's also them working and people cooperating with them. The political agents cooperating with them for security, because you're watching both sides are looking, but you want to make sure that each side is kind of complying with the rules of the polling stations, particularly
security and keeping order.
So it's incumbent on the police to do that, but it's also incumbent on the political parties that have their operatives out there to make sure that they're operating within the law and also cooperate with the police when things aren't set. And then we have the counting clerks who actually, and somebody asked me if they count them manually, and they do count them manually. The box is opened in the presence of the reps from the parties and the clerks and the presiding officers and the poll clerks, and then they separate them out. Different colors, they spoil votes, which are then gone over, and so it's it. And then the other thing that's important or interesting, which I might talk about that later, maybe on another show sometime after, are proxy votes.
Okay.
Like the proxy voting, because those are, one thing to remember about that, when you ask for a proxy vote and you get it all signed and you get the vote, you can't do that and then go in and vote manually. I mean, go in and vote live. You have to use a proxy.
Okay.
And you can't do both. Okay. So that's part of the process of the poll.
But you mentioned a spoiled ballot. So
Yes.
what is considered a spoiled ballot?
Well, a spoiled ballot would, a blank, so there's nothing in it. It's in there, but it's accounted for, but there's nothing there. You vote for more than one, right?
You put the X beside or the symbol beside.
Multiple person, more than one or two or multiple.
Do people do that intentionally?
It could, yes. I think that one is probably.
Some people just go in there to spoil their votes, you know.
Yeah.
But if that's a whole other thing, you know. Do you want to take the cap off of that bottle?
Yeah. But I think it's interesting to look at it, and maybe we should start looking at it more closely. When I say we, I mean the people at Elections and Boundaries, and a bit more statistics on it. I was talking to somebody from the office the other day, and they are, of course, not there under personnel, right, to do all this. But the thing is, that if people are spoiling their votes deliberately, then that's not like a protest vote, and we need to know that, right? Like if out of 6,000 votes that were cast, you have 50 protest votes. Is that significant? Let's think about that. Would it matter? Was the margin close? So does it matter? That's the thing we want to think about, right?
How effective was that protest?
Yeah.
Right. And then, of course, we always have these questions about what you can take in the polling stations. And one of those key rules are no cell phones, no devices allowed in the polling stations with you. Why is that?
Well, to intimidate, security as well. And I think you can have it in your bag, I guess, or in your pocket.
Yeah.
You just can't take it out and use it. And then one of the things which is allegedly it happens, people have to take pictures of their votes to confirm that they voted in a way, So but allegedly.
And your vote should be confidential.
Yes.
So, of course, you wouldn't want to be taking a picture of your ballot.
Right. So, and I think the other part of it is not just when you're voting. I think this rule applies to when the votes are being counted. Okay. You don't want people taking pictures of who is doing it.
Right.
But up on the screen, we have election officers within a polling station are allowed to use cellular phones strictly to conduct official duties within the polling station.
And that's an important caveat, which goes along with the security, with the police, with keeping order, with recording things.
Okay. And then the counting process, which is something that we always talk about. We see it diligently happening in other countries. People have a close eye on the way that ballots are counting. So how does your vote become part of the final result?
Well, when they open the box and they start sorting them, you then go into whoever you voted for, which party A, party B, party C, independent, or independents, depending on how many there are, and then those that are spoiled.
Okay.
Right, and so then you do a first count of all of them. It has to be reconciled. This is something a lot of people don't think about. They think it has to be reconciled with the number of ballots, with the lists.
Okay.
People who came to vote. So you can't have 5,000 pieces of paper and then only 4,500 people were marked off on the list.
Right. That means.
Right. That means it's been stuffed.
What got stuffed? Exactly.
Yeah. So it's really I don't want to say it's complicated, but it has its checks and balances. It requires people to do their job, so the people that keep the records of the paper, they're not the only ones. The parties are watching. You have two people marking it off, and then they have to reconcile that. Then it's reconciled with the number of votes in there. So that gives us a certain amount of security, or confidence that it's difficult to.
So it's a pretty simple process,
Yeah.
Yes.
and it's very fair and finite. We've rarely had to recount.
We've had recounts, but not because they thought people were cheating, just because it was close.
It was so close that maybe there was an error that was made.
So they need to
check it again.
They have to check it again.
Well, I tossed the question to our viewers tonight. Do you trust the election process? And of course, what do you think? Let us know using hashtag Powa 2025. Now, as I said before, with the mark for the X, right?
Yes. So we always say, I'm going to put my X. Make sure you put your X.
And they even show you the picture of
the
X.
picture, and it's an X.
It's part of our flyer as well.
Exactly. And it's great. There's nothing wrong with that. I think putting an X is completely appropriate, but it's not absolutely necessary to use an X.
It's not the only way to do it.
It's not the only way to do it. So in the law, they actually give you a sample of the different ways you can mark. Nobody can see me do this. Different ways you can do it. So you can, take a cross, a zero, vertical mark, thumbprint, diagonal mark, or shade the box. For if you notice all of these examples, all of the marks, whatever they are within the box. So I would suggest that you just put it in the box. For simplicity, just put whatever mark you want in the box. X's are great. Check marks are good. Shading is fine too, but it takes a little bit of time if you want to spend the time.
Hang up the line, can you shade the box?
Yes, right. I probably would, just my personal preference, I'll probably avoid a vertical or diagonal mark. Thumbprint is a little different, I wouldn't do that. But I think a tick or a cross, I think that's good.
I think for me, I've always, because I'm so nervous, I need to ensure that my cross is right within the margin.
Yes, I think
I'm making sure I make my X perfectly.
And then the other thing is, if you're using a pencil, make it visible. Don't use like it's so fine, right? Make a deliberate
And
mark.
they give you a number 2 pencil.
Yes,
so
make a deliberate mark
too.
to make sure you vote colors.
Yes, remember, they're going to give you the pencil.
Yes, they are.
It's attached to a little string, don't take it.
But as we have been discussing the election process here, and of course, viewers, do you trust the election process? What is it like in your constituency? Let us know your thoughts using hashtag Powa2025. We are about to dive into an exclusive interview with Prime Minister Honorable John Briceño right after these messages.
Plan Belize, our medium-term development strategy, 2022 to 2026, is meant to give national implementation to the Sustainable Development Goals. It was designed to transform our economy to support our sustainable development by leveraging education, innovation, good governance, and investment. It is costed at $7.2 billion Belize. But disaster risk and the climate emergency makes all our development progress tentative. The journey of Belize's development is clearly deeply intertwined with climate change and with disaster risk. And so, our development path must rest on a foundation of sustainability and resilience.
Get ready for fantastic discounts. From now through to September 30th, Venice is having store-wide discounts on tools, paints, appliances, plumbing and electrical products, lights and fans, household items, and much, much more. Visit a Venice store near you to enjoy fantastic discounts from now through to September 30th. Only at Venice. Quality and savings.
They'll name you 100 reasons to step back. But when you achieve your goal, they will follow you. Gorilla, make some noise.
Belize introduced its new electronic passport in 2022 through the launch of the Electronic Passport Issuance and Control System, EPICS. The e-passport includes an electronic chip that safeguards the holder's personal information and photograph. It also features a verification mechanism compatible with biometric systems such as smart gates at international borders. The passport's design reflects national pride, showcasing Belizean landmarks and symbols. It incorporates 26 modern security elements to prevent fraud and corruption. The introduction of the e-passport aims to enhance security, improve processing efficiency, and reduce application backlogs, benefiting Belizeans both domestically and abroad. The Ministry of Immigration, strengthening national sovereignty, security, and socio-economic development.
Cooking just got easier with Kent Oils, your go-to choice for every dish. Available in 3 sizes and 3 great options: vegetable, corn, or canola oil. Perfect for frying, baking, sauteing, or grilling. Kent Oils deliver the quality you trust with a clean, natural flavor for all your cooking needs. Conveniently available at stores near you. Exclusively distributed by Unitex Company Limited.
Welcome back. This is Powa and the People. Joining us tonight, we have the Honorable John Briceño, Prime Minister of Belize, with us. With Election Day just around the corner, PM, we're getting straight to the tough questions of governance, leadership, and the future of Belize.
Do we have enough time?
No, it's only an hour.
We'll make the best of the time that we have.
But as much as we have our contributors here, please note that we do have our viewers online. And so if we have any questions to toss at you, some of them will be coming from our virtual audience. And of course, please feel free to call us live if you have any questions for the PM at 280-0016. PM, we are going to begin the first conversation, which is the vision for Belize in the next 5 years. Now, yes, you wrote out your manifesto for 2025, but you, Johnny Briceño, what is your personal manifesto for Belize in the next 5 years?
Well, I think that my personal vision is laid out on Plan Belize 2.0. Mm-hmm. And Plan Belize 2.0 is a continuation of Plan Belize. As I mentioned, and I've been saying it over and over, when we came up with Plan Belize, it was a discussion that went over a number of years. And so it was a fairly comprehensive document as to where we want to see Belize. And we laid it out in 5 broad areas, but 4 broad areas, which the first one is to reduce the trade deficit by 50% within 10 years, to reduce poverty by 50% in 10 years, to have full employment for women and young people within 10 years, to address the issue of citizen security. And citizen security from the angle of not just wanting to look at going after the criminals, but also citizen security entails living in a free country, in a place where there are parks, there are playgrounds, that your children feel at ease, you feel at ease. And so I think we could lay it down in those 4 broad thematic areas. And when you look at what we have accomplished in such a short time, by any measurement or metrics you want to do that, we have had tremendous success over the past 4 years and 4 months. Poverty has gone down from 51% to 24%. Debt to GDP has gone down from 134%. Right now, a bit to 64, probably it's around 67%. The economy from 2020 has increased by 50% from 4 billion to 6 billion. And who could have imagined that for the first time in our campaign, we're not talking about jobs, because right now unemployment is at 3%. And there is full employment for women and children and young people. Because, just look at the BPO sector. When we started out in 2020, there was about 2,500 people working. Presently, at the end of December, there are approximately 20,000 people working. When we came in, the average average salary in a BPO was around 11,000. It is over 18,000 today. And these are numbers that tells a story. On the BPOs, more than 60% are women working at BPOs. Mm-hmm. More than 80% are young people. And now because of technology, you have a lot of mothers that could not go to work working from home. It has transformed. We have transformed the country with what we've been doing. Agriculture, a simple thing. When you look at the issue of cattle, remember back then the former Prime Minister, shut down the border and not allow us to sell cattle. When at that time, we were producing about 35 times more than what we can eat. And for for whatever reason, he shut that down. We opened that up immediately. At one time, the pound of cattle on the hoof, meaning live, was at around 80 cents per pound. When we managed to open the Mexican market, it went up to $2.50. More than 80% of our farmers, cattle ranchers, are growing just 50 heads or more or less. Those people, imagine those people selling 25 heads of cattle per year. At $2.50 a pound, they're no longer poor. And this is what I'm talking about, how we have transformed this country over these past 4 years. Is there more work to do? A lot more work is left to be done. Yeah. But Plan Belize 2.2 is a continuation. What are some of the big things that we want to think we're looking at? The first one is the issue of the economy. For us to be able to continue to have this kind of development in this country, the economy has to keep up more than the population. It has to be growing faster than the population. Right. Our population growth is just over 2% now. And so we are aiming for 5% growth every year. I'm going to be setting up a small team of ministers with a few people, not a lot of bureaucracy, just what are the things that we need to do to be able to keep this growth. Look at the issue of healthcare, which is continuing to be more and more important. We are about to start the building of a tertiary healthcare in Belmopan. That once we do that, it will release the pressure on Calhouston that could take care of Cayo, Sand Creek, and the Toledo district, and Calhouston for the rest of the country. NHI, we have expanded the NHI that this year, we will roll out NHI in Cayo by the middle of this year. So the whole country is going to be covered by NHI, looking at building a hospital in PG. Because when we did the health reform, we came up with these regional hospitals. But PG to Dangriga is over 100 miles, and it's not practical. It's practical in Orange because Orange to Corozal it's about 30 odd miles. So in 40 minutes you're in Orange Walk. In San Ignacio, Cayo, it worked. But there, so we have to address that. Building a hospital in San Pedro. So these are the things that we've been doing that have been transforming this country over the past few years.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Welcome. Thank you for being here. So the indicators are good. The general indicators, if you read the macro indicators like what you discussed, are good. But some of the data, if you dig a little deeper, shows that the development and the progress and the lifting of incomes is not uniform across the country, or probably not even roughly equal. For example, the Toledo district continues to be the poorest district by far compared to the other districts. Belize district being the most wealthy, the others are kind of in between the same range. So my question is, what policy or a policy example you could give, or a change that you could suggest that will happen, that you can do to make this more equitable? How do you reach the people who may not have been raised by this tide that's going on?
Well, I think I want to challenge what you're saying. If simply to say that the Toledo district is a unique situation. I believe that the Toledo district, you have a revolving door of poverty. Why I say that? Because a lot of the indigenous people are coming across from Guatemala. And then they come here, they settle in Belize, their kids grow up, they go to high school, they get a job in tourism or in agriculture outside of the Toledo district. That family moves. But then they tell their family in Guatemala, hey, you could come right here, you're better than over there, you could get land, you could get a job, and so more people come. So constantly this revolving door of poverty that we have in the Toledo district.
Those borders?
Yeah,
we might have a migration
the problem is, the reality is that we have a porous border. I mean, we can't be putting the BDF or the police every quarter mile to stop people from crossing the border. But it is what it is. So we have to address that. And that's why, what have we been doing? Well, in the Toledo district, a part of the problem has been the MLA, the issue of the, I shouldn't put that part that being a problem. The challenge we have is dealing with the Maya Leader Alliance, where they are trying to almost balkanize a part of the Toledo district. And so we've been having long discussions with them on how is it that we could partner And as I pointed out, I would never allow Belize to be balkanized. We're one country. But we do recognize that there may be some historical factors that we have to work with our indigenous people, especially in the south. But when we want to put a road, the irony is they're saying this is for us. Only we're supposed to be in here, but yet they want you to put electricity. They want you to put the roads. They want you to put the hospitals and the clinics and all of that. So how do we balance that? And that also there's a lot of frustration with a lot of people in the Toledo district, because really Toledo district is one of the richest districts
in terms of
in
resources,
this country with resources.
And PM, you mentioned earlier about how expansive the BPO industry has been, and I know that we have a high concentration of BPOs in Belize City, even in the north and in the west, and I realized that there's not a lot of that business in the south. Is there any plan in place, since I know the government does involve itself somewhat into that industry, to maybe extend it to the south to help create jobs? Because I think the largest employer in the south would be the government of Belize, and then second to that.
Not really. The government of Belize don't employ a lot of people in the Toledo district.
Well, that's to show you what it would look like. And I think the second largest employer is the Copaltree property, from what they mentioned. So that's public office,
private,
and private sector, but tourism. And tourism in Toledo is tricky, because even that particular property, they don't have much competitors. So are we looking to maybe open up avenues to increase business in the south, outside of agriculture, of course?
Well, I want to challenge what you're saying, in the sense that the government does not hire a lot of people in the Toledo district.
I'm willing to stand corrected on that, but I'm just going by what I've heard.
No, it's not true. Most of the employees are based in Belmopan and also Belize City. In the rest of the country, 50 or a few hundred, if that much, in the different districts. But the Toledo district, what has happened now is that, okay, let's look at Dangriga. What did Louis Zabani do as the area representative? He took it upon himself to start to train young people in Dangriga, so that they could bring a BPO. Now there is a BPO in Dangriga. They already hired over 250 young people, and now they want to increase it to 500. So that's a start. And Osmond Martinez, as the representative for Toledo East, is doing the same thing. He's starting to have discussions with the BPOs.
So it's coming?
So that, yes, it's coming, so that they could come all the way to that area where they could. We're not going to be as big as like in Belmopan or Belize City, but they could hire a few hundred people. But what have we been doing? Minister Mala, as the Minister of Tourism, has been working aggressively across the country. And in Toledo and PG, where we're the point of entry, we did not have a proper facility. So we're building a new pier right there, working with the Customs Department and Immigration Department to be open for longer hours. On the weekends, they're not open, so people can't come into Belize doing that. So we're doing a number of things to make it easier for people to come and visit through them from the south. We're working with the cacao. We're looking at cacao as having great potential. Look at the rice industry. When we got into government, the rice industry was pretty much dormant or dead at that moment. Minister Mai, the Minister of Agriculture, took it upon himself to go there. And today they are producing, I think, about over 1 million pounds of rice, of good rice. And so we are going in there and working with them, looking at cattle that they could also start to grow or start to have more cattle, so again to the export markets of Mexico and Guatemala. So we're going in, literally rolling our sleeves and working with them to create these opportunities for people in there. And what has the Minister of Education done? We did immediately is go to issue the free education, meaning that now you go to high school and the government pays all your fees, and even if you need uniform, we step in to help you.
Yes, I have, like I said, we have our viewers tuning in online, and I have a couple of questions from our virtual audience. So if you just allow me.
No, go ahead.
So I have one viewer that said that 4 years ago, you promised to lower the cost of gasoline drastically.
Yes.
Worldwide, price of gasoline has decreased dramatically, except in Belize. What are your plans to assist us in lowering the cost of gasoline?
We need to grow the economy faster and collect more taxes, because if we were to reduce the price of the taxes on the gasoline, then we're going to have a huge shortfall in taxes, and that will have to come from somewhere.
Yeah, there needs
so
to be a
we
source
have
for
to find a balance. I wish you could reduce it by 90%.
But the ends have to
But
justify
then
the means, essentially.
where are we going to get that shortfall? Remember, we just increased the threshold for income tax to $29,000 because we want to find ways how we could put more money in your pocket. We increase the minimum wage to $5, and that will increase everybody's salaries. Right now, most businesses will tell you that the level entry for their business is between $8 and $9 per hour. Imagine in shipyard. I was in shipyard a few weeks ago where they planned a public meeting and invited me and Minister Mai, and they pointed out to us, they say their starting salary there is $9 an hour.
We have a caller that is coming in to ask you questions shortly, but like I said, we do have our virtual audience.
Sure.
And we are about to take this call now. Good evening, caller. Where are you calling from?
Good night to you. I'm calling from Belize today.
All right. You have a question for the Prime Minister of Belize. Go ahead.
Okay. Good night to you, Mr. Prime Minister. I hope you're really doing well. I would like to know when would you like to get the chance to do an upgrade of Belize, of George Price Highway from Belize City to Belmopan, because every day you see every day the road is narrow, and the cyclists are constantly doing their exercise or whatever routine they're doing. I was wondering when we'll get a chance to do the upgrade of George Price Highway from Belize City to Belmopan.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. And the issue of infrastructure continues to be an important one, and of which we have done a lot of work when it comes to infrastructure. We have already, I think it's through the CDP, and I think also through Taiwan, that we have already secured funding to be able to do that. So I believe within the first year or second year of our second term, knock on wood, if we get the support on January 12th, we believe that we will be able to start that work. So it is something, it's a high priority of the new government, and we expect to be able to do that shortly.
Okay. One more, because we have to include our virtual audience. There is another question coming in on our Facebook Live that says, with the loss of the USAID foreign aid to Belize and the upcoming loss of the $125 million US MCC grant to Belize, the Palestinians, everything that's happening out there worldwide, will you now invite Palestinian refugees to settle in Belize as a true gesture of Belizean support of those calling for Palestinian solidarity?
I don't know what one has to do with the other.
I just need to point,
I don't know what one has to do with the other. First of all, we do not get a lot of aid from the United States. The big thing was the MCC, where we're going to get about $125 million US dollars to work with education, 80% in education, and 20% with energy. But we don't lose nothing. It's not like we have it or that it was going to help with our budget. So we're still hoping we can proceed with it, but we don't lose nothing. With the issue of the Palestinian solidarity, we have been one of the few countries that really stepped up there to support Palestine and to show solidarity. Look, we suspended relationship with Israel. Who in the Caribbean did it? We thought that they would have joined us. Nobody. Who in Central America did? Nobody. Not even the Arab countries did that. We have joined the case with South Africa, again in solidarity, but nobody has to do that. We need to be also realistic about what we're doing. I think that we firmly believe in the Palestinian cause. We support them in the self-determination on the two-state solution, and we will always be on the side of the Palestinians. But at the same time, we also have a responsibility to Belize. We have seen how the Trump government has been behaving, very irrational and very bullheaded. We can't afford to pick a fight with the United States. So we will still stand by the Palestinians, but at the same time, then we have to be treading more carefully. As much as I hate it, but it's the reality.
Would this affect the ICJ case? Anything?
No, it will not affect the ICJ, because I don't even think the Americans are a member of the ICJ. And maybe
Harold
will know more than I do.
But a couple days of final how much they're
right, but Harold.
Well, two things that are not related. So let's stick with the international for the moment. Is there any projection on when we'll get a decision on the ICJ case?
I think we were still expecting to get it before the end of this year.
Before the 2025?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And we still feel very confident that we will win the case.
Right. So your administration has not been without criticism, of course, as you know, right? No. Yeah, that's not, my gosh, I just broke, I just told you big news, right? But realistically, has there been a decision you've made, you and the cabinet, I don't mean just you individually, but you, the cabinet, your government, that drew criticism and made you think that you had to maybe step back or correct or adjust? Was there anything?
I don't think, I'm trying to remember, I'm sure we did, but I can't remember anything in particular as that. We have nothing like really major that we would have to pull back because the Belizean people were very, very upset. I think generally we've been bold but cautious in our decision making and things that we think are true. And also what we have done very successfully is to engage, especially the public service union, we meet with them regularly in the things that we do. And we also meet with the private sector. So I believe that the more we could engage them and so that they could understand what we're doing, we might not agree on everything, but if they could at least understand what we're doing, then it holds back.
The opposition has been, I use the term loosely, the opposition has been vocal about getting debt, building debt. I know the ratio you're talking about, right? And I know what you're talking about. Hold on. Here where I'm going. So what is the process? What is your thinking? What is the approach to dealing with, for example, the port issue and Stake Bank? Those are big money issues, and they're actually really important to the country and to the economy. So,
but Stake Bank has no bearing on the debt of the country.
And I wasn't talking about debt generally. So that's the criticizing about getting in.
But the issue with Stake Bank, let's quickly look at it. The UDP government passed 2 pieces of legislation saying that this project is of national importance.
Yes.
We came into government and we saw the mess it happened, and now the partners went at it, and one partner, the bank called the loan, the partner couldn't pay, whatever.
And the courts are involved.
A new investor came in and bought over. The court not involved in that. But what happened? The new investors found out that it is alleged that one of the main investors filled land around the island, supposedly using monies. He admitted that they used the monies from the bank, and then put all of that land in his name and left, I think, about 200 meters open space so that people could say, okay, well, you're not completely locked off. And so when they came and said, well, hey, that land belongs to us, and he said, no, that belonged to me. And I mean, the numbers that we're asking is ridiculous, knowing full well that he has time on his hands. And the longer you go, that project is deteriorating. The infrastructure, the land that has been filled is washing off because you need to put the proper infrastructure to protect it. So they come to government and said, listen, this is the situation. We need to solve it. We have potential investors to be able to finish this project. But if we don't solve this problem now, 3 years from now, we're going to have nothing. And then we're going to have this eyesore out there, one. And secondly, the banks will be left with this huge investment that's been done. So we felt that it was in the interest, or the national interest, to acquire this land, pass it over to them for them to finish the project, and then so that it can work. But we also had to be cautious. We had to protect the Belizean taxpayers. And so what did we do? We had them make a deposit, I think about $30 million in the name of the government in Atlantic Bank, and secondly signed an indemnity bond that should the courts determine that that land belongs to Mr. Feinstein and he needs to be compensated, is not going to cost the government a single penny. So Feinstein tried to stop the acquisition. The courts was very clear that the government can't do it because it is in the national interest. And so that has settled that. And then now it's a matter of working on the compensation. And whenever that, if that were to happen, because they are going to go to court, I imagine, and if the investors can prove to the court that that land belonged to the project and not to the individual, then that settles it.
Before we conclude this portion of our segment, Demi?
I actually wanted to go back to how international affairs affect things at home. And if you're watching the news, you know that there's a tariff war that just started with the US, Canada, and Mexico. Yes, it started this morning, went into effect. So a lot of us are curious, how would that affect Belize, especially since we're trying to maintain a strong economy. We do depend on our North American neighbors for quite a bit of our imports.
Sorry, American what?
Our North American neighbors.
Neighbors, okay.
Yes.
I said neighbors.
No. Neighbors. Neighbors.
Yes.
Well, again, as I said, now when the elephants trample the grass. So we have to make sure we're out of their way, to make sure that we don't get trampled in this, which is a foolish thing that's taking place when it comes to this fight with the tariffs wars. What we have to do is then to try to see that maybe start to look at other areas to import from. Most of imports come from the United States. And what I'm sure that Mr. Trump understands is that when he raised tariffs, the tariffs is not the country that's selling the product pays it, it's their consumers, so that the prices of imports from China into the United States will probably go up, so that maybe we may need to look at maybe import from Mexico or other countries or even Canada as opposed to from the United States. But that's not a decision that we will make as a government. The private sector, they are nimble. They are going to be finding and scouting out where they could get things that are going to be cheaper. So I think on the long run, it's going to hurt the United States. It will hurt us a little bit, of course, undoubtedly. But we just have to make sure that we could build some more resiliency into our economy to ensure that we can withstand some of this that's happening.
And one of the things that stood out primarily because our tourism industry, it's predominantly American tourists that we get. So if the U.S. economy, which was expected to grow by, I think, 3 to 4%, will then shrink, I think, to 2.8% in this first quarter, that means that Americans are spending less. Should the tourism industry then be put on notice to maybe look at additional markets if our U.S. clients can't afford the trip?
The beauty about it is that when you're small, presently last year we broke record. I think we had over 550,000 people. 550,000 people out of 330 million is not even a drop, it's half a drop in the drum, not even the buckets. So if it affected, maybe affected by a few thousand. So it's not like a Cancun that's getting 18 million people or 20 million people to visit. So it's much more. But we've been doing a number of things that we've been, Benesamala has been very successful in looking at opening up new markets, especially in Europe right now. That pretty soon I believe that hopefully by the end of this year, we're going to have a direct flight from out of Europe. That's one. But secondly, Mexico. Mexico has over 130 million people. They have, 20, 30, 40 million people that can afford to travel to Belize. They hardly know about Belize. And for some reason, we have not spent time in marketing Belize into Mexico. Whenever I go to Mexico and I talk to people and they're telling me, they can't understand why we're not doing more in Mexico. It says, Belize is so beautiful, we want to go to Belize, but we don't know much about Belize. The point is that whilst the US market is our number one market and will be the number one market for a very long time, one is that we're so small that any shrinkage is not going to have major impact on us. But two, we're looking at different markets like in Europe, Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador. These are people know that they want to come, and we need to make it easy for them. What have we done in Mexico? In cabinet, we amended the law so that a Mexican can come in with the Belize. We could give them the Belize ID, just like when they give us one in Mexico, free of cost. They'll be able to use their insurance from there in Belize. We have removed the border charges so that they'll come in and to spend money in Belize. So we're setting the groundwork to make it easier for Mexicans to come, and also something that's going to be transformative. And I know I caused some issues with the environmentalists, but I proposed to President Andres Manuel Obrador, or better known as AMLO when he was president. I said, why can't we build a bridge that would connect Hamburgues Caye to Mexico? It is alleged originally that Hamburgues Caye is a part of Mexico. But they said that it was connected, well, it was connected. And that the Mayas dug a canal,
yes, they did.
the Canal de Zaragoza, to be able to to shortcut instead of another with canoes, go
all the way around.
And hope.
Yes.
This is not too far. I could dig a hole on my ear right here. And so that is about 40 meters wide. And so we started discussion then, and now President Sheinbaum now have sent message to me that they want to have a discussion on two things right now. One is to see how we can move the Tren Maya to go from Mexico, Belize, and to Tikal. And secondly, to have the discussion on how if we could be able to build the bridge to connect. Now imagine the Riviera Maya starting in Cancun and ends in San Pedro, or it starts in San Pedro and ends in Cancun. I mean, these are things that are transformative. And we have to think big. We just can't continue to think small of how we can do these things.
PM, we'll have more with you. Of course, we toss our, we ask our viewers that are listening online to send us your comments, call us, and if you have more questions, we'll have more with Honorable John Briceño after this.
Cooking just got easier with Kent Oils, your go-to choice for every dish. Available in 3 sizes and 3 great options: vegetable, corn, or canola oil. Perfect for frying, baking, sauteing, or grilling. Kent Oils deliver the quality you trust with a clean, natural flavor for all your cooking needs. Conveniently available at stores near you. Exclusively distributed by Unitex Company Limited.
The Ministry of Immigration is making its services accessible to all Belizeans wherever they are, even in the diaspora, with partners such as the International Organization for Migration, UNICEF, the Vital Statistics Unit, and the Social Security Board. Services include on-site passport applications, renewal of permanent resident cards, and replacement of nationality certificates, among others.
Coming from Corazon, San Lucas, Porosha, Dolores, and Machakila, these people have a very hard time going out there because transportation is one of the biggest things.
I am a single mom, and I feel like if I come here, it will be more easier for me.
It's been good
because it's weekend. I don't need to take off from work. It's very convenient for me not going to Bonpan.
We are working to ensure that no one is left behind, no matter where they call home. The Ministry of Immigration, strengthening national sovereignty, security, and socio-economic development.
Come to Banquet, find your way. Engines roar at the break of day. Volvo outboard surf the waves. Castrol oil is what they crave. Live with power, feel the sound. Heavy machines shake the ground. Riding Honda, feeling proud. Rev it up and shout aloud. Feel the wind against your skin. Now so why, let's begin. At Banquet, where dreams ignite. Gear up, let's take flight. Kohler's power runs our towns. JCB lifts heavy pounds. Find the tools to build your dreams. Banquet's got the best machines. Grip the wheel and never slip. Feel the rush, it's time to trip. Every brand you know and love. Banquet fits you like a glove. Feel the wind against your skins. Now so why, let's begin. At Banquet, where dreams ignite. Gear up, let's take flight.
Banquet, equipment, parts, service. We represent quality.
They'll name you 100 reasons to step back. But when you achieve your goal, they will follow you. Gorilla, make some noise.
Plan Belize, our medium-term development strategy, 2022 to 2026, is meant to give national implementation to the Sustainable Development Goals. It was designed to transform our economy to support our sustainable development by leveraging education, innovation, good governance, and investment. It is costed at $7.2 billion Belize. But disaster risk and the climate emergency makes all our development progress tentative. The journey of Belize's development is clearly deeply intertwined with climate change and with disaster risk. And so, our development path must rest on a foundation of sustainability and resilience.
Welcome back. This is Powa and the People. We have with us still the Prime Minister of Belize, Honorable John Briceño. We've been having conversations surrounding the achievements of the People's United Party within the last 5 years. And I do have another question from our virtual audience while we were talking about the achievements within the last 5 years. What has been some of the challenges? If you can name about 5 challenges that have happened within the past 5 years.
Well, the biggest challenge is that we inherited a government that was bankrupt. When the financial secretary gave his first presentation to the cabinet and showed how dire things are, I always remember telling him, so are you telling us that we're at the edge of the cliff? He said, we're not at the edge of the cliff, we're off the cliff. So we need to be able to have a soft landing. And then after that, I was told that we were borrowing $1 million a day for the government to operate. So that in itself is a massive challenge. The challenge of the debt, the national debt, the GT super bond, the previous government in 13 years paid over $725 million. And that super bond did not go down by a single cent. Actually, it increased because they missed 3 payments. So we knew we had to address that issue. The issue of unemployment. Imagine you get into a government and unemployment is at 30% and underemployment is another 30%. And so, what the hell am I now going to do over again to get these people back to work? And the issue of poverty that was continuing to explode, that was at 51%. I said, how can one of every Belizean is poor? These are real challenges that you're facing. And from my perspective, I said the only way you could address this is by work, hard work. We said we need to open the economy as quickly as possible. We can print money like the United States, or we can borrow money like Mexico and Canada and those big countries, or Europe. Again, they're printing their own money. We had to work. So immediately started with cattle and sell. We were throwing away milk during the pandemic because the government decided to shut down the borders. So we were selling everything we could sell as quickly as possible to start to bring money into the country. And Minister Mala immediately came to me and says, well, we have the cruise ships, they have nowhere to go, they want to come to Belize. I remember when I met the Prime Minister Davis from Bahamas, and he said, man, Mr. Prime Minister, I said, we did something foolish. The ships, we did not allow the ships to stop in the Bahamas. I said, well, thanks to you, they came to Belize, because we were welcoming them. And so people started to work. The free zone, we shut down the free zone. That had, they were employing, well, at that time, 1,500 plus people. And so they came and said, well, we also have a plan. And so we did some bold decisions. And that worked out well, thank God, but had it gone wrong, everyone said, well, what the hell you want to think about? But I come from a culture of hard work. The only way you could get ahead in this life is about hard work, having a plan, and then work out that plan with determination and discipline and going at it every single day. So we met the bondholders from the blue bond, from the super bond, and I tell them, well, the first thing the IMF tell me, 3,000 people, increase GST, the same the same, they have the same formula for all of these things, right? For everybody in a trouble, right? Yes. Which is generally what you do, even in business. If you don't have the money, you have to cut expenses, you have to increase your revenues. Yes. And so they're saying, well, do that. And I said, but people out there work. Why put 3,000 people out there and they don't work? I mean, most of them would have been UDPs because they were hired by the UDP, but we come from a few people for social justice that we can't do that. And the whole area raising the GST to 19% when people don't even do work. So we said we're going to come with one plan. And it took hard work. It took some tough decisions. We cut free salaries by 15%. We reduced our allowances by 50%. And then we had to meet with the public service and also the union and also the BNTU and telling them, guys, we need to cut the salaries.
PM, we want to take the conversation down a policy route. So I will start with you, Harold, and then Demi.
So, look into the future.
But you asked me what were the challenges. So I
guess yes.
I marked them off.
Yes, you had 5.
So you have the. What are two of the most important things you need to do for the future? You say you've got solved the crisis. We've gotten past the crisis that you inherited. So now the ball is, you're holding the ball, right? The parties, the government's holding the ball, the current government. What two major things do you need to achieve in the next 5 years if you're re-elected?
I think the most important one is the economy. That we need to be able to keep a growth that is big enough to be able to meet the needs of a growing population, but also then to address the issues of poverty. Because if we grow the economy, then that means there are more jobs, more people to work, they get out of poverty. We cannot give away what we don't have. And I know even sometimes in cabinet I have to be having this discussion with our colleagues, pointing out to them that everybody come with such excitement and say, hey, we want to do this, we could do this. And I tell them, hold it down, we don't have the money. We can't borrow our way into prosperity. When we borrow, it has to be balanced and it has to be with a plan as to how we're going to be able to get returns. Education, for instance, when we're talking about free education and allowing more and more kids to stay in school, that has been a challenge. At one time, about 50% of our kids that started high school, they were not finishing high school. So we knew that was a problem. So what have we been doing? One is to be able to ensure that through the government high schools, we started providing free education. And we've been doing that. We're going from district to district. Sacred Heart College is going to start come September. then so that in itself, to grow that economy, to be able to transform the collection of taxes, that we can be able to collect the taxes that we should be collecting without having to raise, and so that then we can then work on the social issues, education, health, infrastructure that we have to be able to do, work with our farmers to be able to get them to start to prepare for the issue of climate change and come with more climate resiliency in their agricultural practices. These are challenges, the things that we have to be facing today to be able to address.
So talking about collecting, talking about collecting taxes, from what I've learned gathered over the years, Belize does not collect, maybe national government, does not collect, maybe collects 50% of the under the tax regime that we currently have now that could be collected.
I don't think it's so high. But
is that so high or is that so low?
No, I think that's high. I think it's less than 50%.
We collect less than 50%
no,
we should collect?
No, we collect more than 50%.
More than 50%.
Yes,
and I guess one of the big parts where the money is not being collected is customs.
And that's why we have been doing a lot of stuff with that. We've been passing a lot of legislation on what we call about electronic invoicing, which is going to change the game, because what is going to happen? Companies importing will have to submit electronically their invoices, and then that will go to BTS. And then, so, what we use a simplified example. For those that try to beat the system, they put in their invoice that they bring in 1 container load of cornflakes.
Right.
But actually, it's TVs in there. And so that goes into goes to BTS in their system. And then all of a sudden, you see that same importer now, they start to sell TVs. And so when they provide the invoices, and they check now, because with AI and the new technologies that BTS is starting to implement, and we don't do it yet, but we're getting there. So we don't pass the legislation. We'll immediately say, hold on, this is not a match. You say you pay for bringing cornflakes, but you just sell TVs. So how you could explain that? That's one aspect of it.
Yeah.
But also, we even need to go to one step further to the bigger retail stores and discussing with them of probably putting our own point of sale systems that we could have direct access to the point of sale. So when you're selling, we could make sure that we collect, not that we want to get into your business, but we need to be able to collect our property, our fair share of taxes.
On behalf of the people.
On behalf of the people.
And to ensure that we don't have tax, we don't have tax fraud.
These are some of the things.
So
and we've spent a lot of time in passing a number of legislation for us to be able to implement that.
Demi, do you have counter questions?
And also one with the Asikuda system, we have already approved over $3 million to be able to upgrade and to put the last module, so then it will be a complete module that will be difficult to be under-reporting or not reporting properly the goods that you.
That's a good foundation to set, though.
Definitely. Yeah, yes. So expect higher revenue.
Yes.
Intake.
Demi?
So a lot of young voters were anticipating you being on the show tonight. So I have some questions that were funneled through me. One of them addressed free education. And from our earlier conversation, you mentioned that we could lower gas prices, but what are we going to supplement in terms of the cost? So one of the questions that they had was, how are we going to afford free education? Are we going to maybe consider new taxes? Are we looking at maybe private sector partnerships so that it can be rolled out nationwide? How are we?
Well, I just said that that in the sense that we need to be able to tighten the way we collect the taxes.
Okay.
So that we believe that will be able to that. But also what's important that to grow the economy, as the economy grows, the taxes increase. Imagine in 2020, the size of the Belize economy was at 4 billion. At the end of 2024, it was at 6 billion. It has increased by 50% in just these 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
One of the reasons why they mentioned to ask where that money was going to come from is because we know that through Powa Di People, NHI is able to roll out.
Yes.
And so just to segue into NHI, because it recently came under fire as well from one of the opposition members, but not getting into that part.
Not yet.
Not getting into that. Just pointing out.
Yeah.
I know that we're expanding NHI nationwide and we're putting in different clinics that offer NHI. But are we also looking at maybe making NHI coverage more expansive and not just from an accessibility standpoint, meaning are we going to expand what all NHI covers eventually so
Not
we could
just primary care,
exactly so we could eventually look at
we need to
healthcare?
understand what NHI is all about. NHI is primary health care. So we deal at the basic level that for instance, in the United States, when you get sick, you don't go to the hospital, you go to a clinic and you see a doctor. And then if that doctor feels that it's really bad or you need a surgery or whatever, then they refer you to the big hospital.
Then go to the hospital, it's an emergency.
We in Belize, because we did not have that in place, what do? We go to the hospital, we go to Calhoun, we go to Northern Regional. And so you see, like in Orange Walk, you see in one given day, 200 persons, 300 people lining up to see a doctor when 80%, 90% of them do not belong in a hospital, they belong in a clinic. So what the NHI is doing is to spread the service in for instance, in the districts, and so that, and then you register in one of these clinics. And so when you feel sick, you go to the clinic, and then they are going to see you, and then they could deal with most of your illnesses. Unless if they realize, hold on, you need one surgery, then they refer you to the secondary hospital, and then there the idea is now that there we don't have all of this crowded, all of the people are crowded in there, that then you'll be able to get the service quicker. So we can't confuse what NHI is all about, or we should not confuse what NHI is. It's providing the basic primary health care for our citizens.
And
a lot of it is preventative also, because then if you have diabetes, you can go there. If you have hypertension, and they could treat you on a regular basis and try to keep you as healthy as you possibly can. And we're even providing services now for elderlies, because then they need different kind of services or medical medical
and
attention.
it does subsidize their medication. But it was just a question that came up because
It's a good question. It's a good. And people don't need to have a good understanding of what NHI is.
It is, and I'm very glad you brought that up, because we have been talking to the youths. They are majority of your voters, right? And
not really.
No? We don't have
They don't actually
interesting. They don't come out, but they are the larger.
They're registered, but they don't necessarily.
No, not even
go.
registered.
Really?
No. If you look at the numbers, the voting population, the real population, or I say probably about 29 to around 45. That are where they block. Young people bring energy in your campaign, and so it's important to talk to them, and also they guide you as to what are the important issues. But you have more and more a number of them that vote, but the big block that the people are ready to think about family,
working,
education.
But is that why we're not really hearing about the policy on youth development?
That's not true.
Okay, well, that is one of our viewers are asking about what are your policies on youth development and youth leadership coming into the next 2025?
Well, I think that the most important thing when it comes to the youth policy has to be tied in with education. That we need to be able to provide educational opportunities to our young people. We need to, education, and from my perspective, is not an expense, it's an investment. That if we can provide the proper education to our young people, then we'll be better off when we go. We're going to have good people. And listen, I've been dealing with a lot of young people lately, and I am very encouraged and enthused about the future. I think we'll be even better off. I stopped off at Bishop Martin High School 2 weeks ago. I made a donation to them. The principal said, when I drop off and visit the school, and I got an ink all of the students impromptu. I spoke to them about 5 minutes and started asking questions. When they're asking me about inflation, these are high school kids. They're asking, why did you change the dollar? They move the Queen to our national heroes. Like, wow. They're asking me about immigration. They say, what about what the United States said they're going to send all these immigrants or illegal immigrants from Belize back home. You know,
Paying attention.
and then I tell them, you know, please don't get me started with the U.S. president right now. And they started applauding, you know, like it means that they're watching the news.
They definitely,
so I am
they definitely
very,
are
very
engaged.
excited
I think
about them.
One of the issues that I keep hearing in the youth community is that it's not that we don't care, it's not that we're not aware, it's that is there a seat at the table for us? Because if we're not going to be a part of the conversation, if we don't see representation from a youth perspective in government, then how do we know that our interests are being rallied again, or rallied for rather?
Get involved.
So someone even mentioned, and I think it was the CARICOM Youth Ambassador for Belize, mentioning maybe having youth vice ministers in the different industries, maybe
different ministries.
Right, in the different ministries, or maybe even you, Prime Minister, having a young advisor beside you, whispering in your ear, letting you know what the kids are buzzing about.
Court.
But
basketball court.
I think
there's enough basketball court.
No, I'm thinking that it's wider than that I'm hearing. As you rightfully mentioned, they are much more informed than when some of us gave them credit for. But when we look at some of our candidates, we're going to the polls next week, I'm seeing some young representation. And I'm not just talking about on your side of the floor, I'm talking across the board. I'm not seeing a lot of insurgents of younger people or even newer faces from our communities, and that's concerning, especially when you have one fraction of the UDP that they're running with persons that we thought we had already cleared the deck from them. So since you are in a position where you could bring forth reformation and change in this, is there any youth involvement policy that we could look forward from your administration, where I know you guys have the youth arm as well? Is that one of the areas we could look at to see future leaders from your party, future policy makers? Are we getting involved in the youth community to ensure that they have an active participation in their future?
I think first it's important to make a point that what you see in Belize here, it's all over the world. That it's a process to be able to get involved in politics. Any young person who get in, nobody will stop them. But it's about positioning yourself and get the community to know you and to work. And some that have gotten from at a young age, they've been successful. Cordell Hyde, Patrick Faber. To me, I was 32 years old when I was first started out.
That's still young.
It's still young.
But you were campaigning and you were involved long before that. A lot of people.
My father and my uncle were involved. But when I came back from college, I said, "Oh, mess with politics. Look after my business, but make I try to live, don't worry about people problems." But then you're pulled in. So there are a number of successes when we had young people to make. I say that to make the point that young people need to be able to get engaged. But the truth of the matter is that young people are interested in other things.
How do we get them engaged then?
Because this is worldwide. It's just normal for young people to know the world about the things. They want to worry about education and their boyfriend and their girlfriend. I'm not in any way trying to don't talk to them, but it's the reality that they have. Now we need to be able to do more to engage them. Yes, I agree with you. We need to find ways in how to engage them. And one of the best ways is to make yourself available to them, that they can talk to you and they can ask you questions, and that you are prepared to listen to them. And then also a lot has to do with your upbringing within your family, that if your family is involved or engaged, their kids also become engaged. So we need, it sounds sexy and the young people have to, but it's a challenge on how we can get them to engage, and I'm open to advise and to whatever it is that we can do to be able to do a better job.
Harold?
Yeah, so elections are upon us. That's a big thing that's going on right now. And there's a certain amount of voter cynicism out there. People say, there's no choice, there's no PUDP, they're going to vote. So there are a number of different things going on. And so maybe we could talk about a couple of them. One of them, and this is a perpetual issue, is that, they're buying elections. Allegedly, voters are being bought. Maybe you could comment on that, and can you give an assurance of how that your party will not engage in vote buying?
First of all, vote buying is illegal.
Vote buying, yes.
It's illegal. So if anybody is doing that, it's an illegal act, and if they are caught, they should be taken to court, and if necessary, to be jailed. Let's start off with that. But I want to challenge this issue of cynicism. Yes, there is some cynics in every society, but I think that generally Belizeans are engaged in politics. Look at our elections. Every election we have more than 70% people coming out to vote. Where's the cynicism? You could find, 10 people, 100 people, and 1,000 people that are cynics, but that does not mean that the Belizean people are cynics. So I challenge you when you say that. I think that Belizeans are generally engaged when it comes to politics, when the time comes to make that decision. And I challenge this notion of this PUDP business, and people in the media have used that because it sounds good, it sounds sexy, but I don't subscribe to that. I think that we are totally different, especially in our DNA, in the way that we operate as a party. We are a small economy, and there's only so much that we can push to make, in a sense, different per se, because we can't say, oh, we are being a communist country, We know that we have to be market-driven. We have the United States right next door that will not allow that to happen. So from that perspective, you could say, well, there's some, that there are areas where we agree to. But I think from our part, we firmly believe in the issue of social justice. That's part of our DNA, that how we could help people to get better. I firmly believe that as a government, we need to help the people that need the most help. And once they're up on their foot, they need to go on their own, and then we could go and try to help other people. We firmly believe in competence, that we have to put people that are competent and can get the job done. Look at 13 years under the previous government, and look at the economy contracted over those 13 years. And that's not my numbers, that's the IMF numbers. I know you could fact check me if you wish. And here we are, in just a short period of time, we have transformed this country. So there's a huge difference between what the UDP is driven and what we are driven. We are not a party of like this fighting, and like, I think my brother, we described it best the other day with the laugh. He said, boy, John, the difference between the PUP and UDP? I said, what? He said, the UDP, even when they win, they believe they're in opposition. So the PUP, we lose and we still believe we're in a government. So there's a big difference between the two of us. So I challenge them about this PUDP business. Well, it sounds good, so they use it, and that's okay. But I know we are far different from what the other parties may be. And as to issue of the buying of voting, I mean, look at the situation, right? First of all, who have to do any of that? I think that we have a very strong record, and that people have seen the difference, that even members of the opposition are thinking of giving us support in this election. But I want to point out that if there's any case of vote buying from any party, that those people should be reported.
Are we doing any enforcements on election day?
Well, what enforcement can we do? I mean, somebody have to come and make the
So will we see redistricting in the next 5 years?
Yes.
Will we see electoral reform?
Yes.
Constitutional reform?
Well, remember we were working on the, and this is something that you all forget, that we have this the People's Constitutional Commission, the PCC, that I mean, it's taken a bit too long, and I'm hoping that they can come up with some set of recommendations early in the next government, that we can take a look and see, okay, what's doable, what's not doable, and then see what kind of meaningful, fundamental changes we can get. Remember that one of the goals is to how we can deepen the democracy, but at the same time, we have to make sure that it's still a democracy that can work, not something that's going to be just bogged down because everything consult. I mean, look at Chile. Chile, both occasions they tried to do constitutional reform and it failed. I think by Barbados, I think the
Barbados
same thing,
is, but in your manifesto, you have decolonizing our system. Yes. Does that mean that we are looking forward to perhaps replacing our Governor General and then moving towards a republic? Is that the way that we want to go?
No, decolonizing does not mean that you have to be a republic, because the parliamentary system is something that is practiced all over the world. And I think when you start to look at how badly, republicanism has turned out,
But there's republicanism and there's republicanism. It's not one kind of
one thing, yeah.
So maybe, maybe let's work with what we have that is working. No, all over the world.
Yeah.
Well,
look at Guatemala. Look at Guatemala.
Nobody's saying it was to
look at Guatemala.
I think I was just curious what exactly we meant by decolonizing our constitution, because it was a one statement on the manifesto, and there wasn't really much context.
But decolonizing does not necessarily mean that we have to change the complete system of governance.
What does it mean?
Means that where we can pull away more and more from our colonizers and to be our own and to decide fully how this country is supposed to be moving forward.
PM, I tell you, an hour going by very quickly, right? We are completely out of time, so I really want you to use this time to talk to your viewers, talk to your voters, and convince them as to why they should vote for you and your administration in 2025 general election.
Yeah.
Yes, or why they should go down and vote.
I think the first thing is that I'm trying to encourage people to come out and vote. Ever since I would meet people and say, they're not sure they want, I say, listen, even if you don't vote for me, go out and vote. It is important. To me, that's the most important thing. Please come out and vote. Don't think that, this one don't win or that one don't win. Come out and vote. It is your sacred duty as a Belizean citizen. I want the Belizean people to be able to judge us on our performance over the past 4 years. If you believe that we did not do a good job, vote way out, vote against us. But if you could really look at and decide that we have done a good job, I think that you should vote for us again. I sincerely believe that as a government, we have done far better than anybody expected. The former Prime Minister at the time were weeping for Belize and talking about devaluation. None of that happened. Look at where we are. For the first time since the Statistical Institute of Belize, as IB, has been doing surveys, are saying now that consumer confidence is up more than 50%. More than 50% of the people are saying that Belize is moving in the right direction. That has never happened since we started to do those things. So we are moving in the right direction. We have been doing the right things. We did not go in as a vindictive government, so and we have fired all of the UDPs and fired this like what has happened in the past. We had to work with them. I know a number of our people were upset because they say, well, in the day you can't get a job. So we can't run one government like that. And that to be able to, so I am asking the Belizean people, look at our record, look at what we have done, look at the accomplishments that we have done. And if you could sincerely believe that we did a terrible job, then don't vote for us. But if you're truly honest and have a hard look at what we have done, everybody will come to that conclusion that we need to have a second term of government led by the People's United Party.
Prime Minister John Briceño, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Best of luck to you and your administration on Elections Day. It is just 8 days away and you're still campaigning. Thank you so much for giving us
Please don't tell me you don't vote because you're a journalist. I
vote. That's why I could tell you things, but are you planning to vote on March 12th? Let us know in the comment section below. We'll be back with more Powa and the People.
Plan Belize, our medium-term development strategy, 2022 to 2026, is meant to give national implementation to the Sustainable Development Goals. It was designed to transform our economy to support our sustainable development by leveraging education, innovation, good governance, and investment. It is costed at $7.2 billion Belize. But disaster risk and the climate emergency makes all our development progress tentative. The journey of Belize's development is clearly deeply intertwined with climate change and with disaster risk. And so, our development path must rest on a foundation of sustainability and resilience.
Get ready for fantastic discounts. From now through to September 30th, Venice is having store-wide discounts on tools, paints, appliances, plumbing and electrical products, lights and fans, household items, and much, much more. Visit a Venice store near you to enjoy fantastic discounts from now through to September 30th, only at Venice. Quality and savings.
They'll name you 100 reasons to step back. But when you achieve your goal, they will follow you. Gorilla, make some noise.
Belize introduced its new electronic passport in 2022 through the launch of the Electronic Passport Issuance and Control System, EPICS. The e-passport includes an electronic chip that safeguards the holder's personal information and photograph. It also features a verification mechanism compatible with biometric systems such as smart gates at international borders. The passport's design reflects national pride, showcasing Belizean landmarks and symbols. It incorporates 26 modern security elements to prevent fraud and corruption. The introduction of the e-passport aims to enhance security, improve processing efficiency, and reduce application backlogs, benefiting Belizeans both domestically and abroad. The Ministry of Immigration, strengthening national sovereignty, security, and socio-economic development.
Cooking just got easier with Kent Oils, your go-to choice for every dish. Available in 3 sizes and 3 great options: vegetable, corn, or canola oil. Perfect for frying, baking, sauteing, or grilling. Kent Oils deliver the quality you trust with a clean, natural flavor for all your cooking needs. Conveniently available at stores near you. Exclusively distributed by Unitex Company Limited.
Welcome back, and thank you for sticking with us. As we wrap up, let's reflect on what we've learned tonight. What should voters take away from the Prime Minister's responses, and what's left to watch for in the final days before the election? What, Harold, are some of the most important takeaways from tonight's interview with the PM?
Well, one of the important things, and I hope people take him seriously, the Prime Minister actually asked the voters to take a look at what has been done.
Yep.
Look around you.
Look at the track record.
Look at it and decide if you can honestly say
that
nothing has been done or it's worse.
Your life isn't where
then
you want it to
you
be.
can vote against his party. So he was categorically clear, and we got the idea that he was extremely well prepared. Not that we didn't expect him to be prepared, but he was extremely well prepared, and was able to present without a lot of spin what he had in his head, all the points, and he went through everything. I thought,
and he kept very calm and just said what he had to say.
Yes. He had his statistics, that's for sure. But one of the questions that we were not able to ask him were his thoughts on the key races and the battlegrounds and the constituencies and so forth. But Demi, what did you think about his answer when it came to youth involvement?
I took it with a grain of salt.
Okay.
I took it with a grain of salt because when we look at our neighboring countries and who's leading the charge on discussions, it's young people. We could look at America and what they've gone through in the past 5 years with the BLM movement and even the Palestinian movement, and those were all brought forward by Gen Z. Gen Z is very powerful if used properly. So it's not that we don't have that same type of youth here in Belize. We have them.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they're tapped into. There is this conversation that I keep hearing that when we try to raise our voices up, we kind of get pushed back into our corners, where there's this clear generational gap where they can't hear us, but do they want to hear us? So I would have loved to challenge that perspective, because even like if you meet with youth delegations, you go to any gathering of young people. I was in a Zoom last night. You guys were at a forum earlier today.
Yes.
They have a lot to say, but are they in the space to say it to the right people so that the change that they're fighting for or wanting of is being done?
I agree. Harold?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, it's kind of like a DEI issue, to use the US expression. It's like, do we have the forums? Are we meaning the establishment, institutions, the older people, are we making the effort to bring in the youth, right? Are we making a real effort, or is it tokenism, or is it like we don't really believe they have anything to say?
I mean, it feels a little tokenism sometimes.
Sometimes, yeah. But I will say though, on the other hand, I will say that when the platform is there, young people need to prepare and put themselves in the position to take advantage of it. Granted, they're not enough as they should be, but what's there have not been utilized.
Right. I agree.
To a great extent. But it takes courage, and that's what I want to say. They need to be courageous, and they need to put themselves out there. And we as the adults, or we as the older people, need to not be too hard on mistakes, or I have to tell myself this because I've been around so long. I know a lot more than some people. So I tend to say, oh, well, you don't remember this.
But that also tells you what they've been educated on.
Yes.
And the information that is, exposure is a big deal.
I've always said I would challenge what we're teaching kids in school. I'll challenge how we teach our history. Because there is a lot of Belizean history of how exactly independence went about and post-independence that they don't know about.
And they don't even know how the political parties were formed.
Exactly. It wasn't a simplistic process. It wasn't can I get permission to be independent? No. And those are the conversations we need to start having. I didn't find those things out until I was well into sixth form. That's kind of when my transformation happened with that.
But for example, the program today, the forum today, this was when it was open, it was on campus.
Yes.
The professors had spoken about it in their classes.
This was their opportunity.
This was their opportunity to be there, and they came. Some of them came and they left early. They didn't stay for the real discussion.
Yeah.
And I'm not blaming. I'm saying, what is it that we can do? What do we do when to get them engaged? We have it here. People don't call, they want to write in, right?
Yes,
they want social media.
And they are.
Want Zooms and they want.
But ladies and gentlemen, as we are winding down and wrapping up, we are looking at 8 days left, well, 7 going tomorrow, left into the general elections. Harold, what races are we to watch on March 12th?
So the last time I think we went through 8 or 9 of the constituencies. We're not going to do all of them tonight, but some of them need a little bit refocus. I want to say that the Collett race, Patrick Daly, I've been into Collett for other reasons. Devin. Seemed to have picked up the activity in his constituency.
And he has Mala on the ground with him too, which I figured that was going to happen, since you have two PUP giants who could basically take a vacation that day. That they would put them in places that could use a little push.
That's exactly what they did. The two from Collett, from Pickstock and from Fort George are now free to use their not the money, but the human resource, the energy, the expertise to get
their
in.
Teams that would have been in those areas can now come
so
and bring
I have
people
seen
in
a bit more in Collett. Mesopotamia has also picked up Lee Mark for Trace's faction of the UDP campaigning commercials. And the commercials that I heard repeatedly, ones I heard repeated on the station I was listening to, were against Mr. Barrow. There was a commercial against Mr. Ellis, the DPP, but they have been dueling commercials between those two.
These people are running campaigns being petty and not on public.
But he has publicly said that it is to get Shine Barrow
absolutely. He's not hiding that at all. He put, from the time he announced, he's like, and actually the commercial from the says this is a time to get rid of.
Yeah. How do people get lost in that sauce or not? Because that's my concern. You're dealing with Mesopotamia. It's from a disenfranchised neighborhood. It can't just be.
You rightfully said this election is going to be one for the history books, but we have to wrap up quickly. So Harold, last one.
So I want to add. Last time we spoke about this, Belize Rural Central. We didn't mention David Almandares. So now we have 3 there, and they have been active.
David's camp has been active?
No, well, he's now nominated and he's in the parliament. We've been mentioning last time because he hadn't been nominated as yet. And the last one I want to talk about to add to our list is Cayo Central. Alex Bologna is the area rep, or is the current standard bearer, and they have an interesting history because he defeated Rene Montejo the last time, but Rene Montejo was a 3-time winner.
Yes.
So that was an entrenched UDP. He has won, so we need to see if and then the person he's running against is Mark O'Brien, and he has the support. And this is anecdotal. I don't have concrete evidence, but this is a report that he has the support of Mayor Trapp, and Mayor Trapp is extremely popular, and so we'll see if that may have an effect on his campaign experience and his knowledge of people, and if they're going to come out for him. So those are the two. Those are the ones I think that
we need to add. Yeah. So we'll have more on Powa and the People on Thursday, but that's it for tonight's show. We had the direct conversation with PM. So I want to say a huge thank you to PM for joining us tonight. And of course, we challenged his administration's record, and we looked at the road ahead for Belize. Stay informed, stay engaged, and join us again on Thursday night as we switch gears to an interview with the leader of the opposition. Yes, we will have Honorable Moses Shine Barrow with us Thursday right here on Powa and the People. Stay locked in, stay tuned, and remember, you have the power. Have a good night.
Powa and the People is brought to you by Venice Home Center, Quality and Savings, the Ministry of Immigration, Unitex Company Limited, exclusive distributor of Gorilla Energy Drink and Kent Boringer products, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade,